Welcome back to part two of the Sunday supplement. Let's focus on yesterday's FA Cup action. And at the One Call Stadium, Jackie, the Sunday Telegraph highlights Max Dowman. History maker Dowman justifies the hype. We'll come to him in just a moment, but they were given a scare, weren't they, Arsenal? But they found a way. They always, this season, seem to find a way.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? And they started with two 16-year-olds, Max Dowman and Marley Salmon, who was in defence. And it was an opportunity to give other players minutes. And it's also an opportunity to expose them to a League One team, first team, strong team, away in the FA Cup. A very different experience to what we see every week in the Premier League. And they came through it. And it's excellent, the fact that it was hard fought. They don't want it to be 3-0, 4-0. I don't think. I think the players themselves, especially the young players, Salmon and Dowman, will have benefited from having a real rough and tumble game. And by the way, the two excellent goals that Arsenal scored were not from set pieces, which will just help shut people up for another week or so, possibly, or for at least about half an hour on this show.
Yeah, we'll be discussing that further later in the show, I'm sure.
And Dowman was exceptional. He had a lot of touches on the ball, and it wasn't just in advanced areas. He came back, he defended. He's had some time out injured, but he's such a talent with his balance. He's a real kind of wriggly sort of player, manages to wriggle out of challenges. He is exceptionally left-footed. That's not a criticism, but he'll do anything to use his left foot instead of his right. In a way, you think back in the day of one of my heroes growing up with Stuart Pearce, and you think, well, he scored lots of goals. You think, well, surely he's going to take it on his right foot, and he finds a way to take it on his left. But his defensive work, his positional awareness, his ability to pick up the ball in pockets of space, his bravery, his courage to run at defenders, and he just looks completely at home at first team level. And he's 16, for goodness sake.
You mentioned 16. He became the youngest player, Dom, to appear in the FA Cup for Arsenal. They have got an absolute gem on their hands here, haven't they? Oh yeah,
very fact that he's been around it since he's been playing since he's 15. That just needs emphasising. I've got three boys. One's 17, one's 15, and one's 13, and I couldn't imagine them being in the Premier League. If you understand, that's like the babies and what he's doing. You can quite rightly say that he's one of the best in the world for his age, because to make it in a Premier League team, it's a global business now. So the very fact that he is doing what he's doing at this age, all credit to him, his family, how he's been raised. It's an extraordinary achievement. This can never be taken away from him. What an incredible job they're doing nurturing him, and we can only hope that he continues to progress without having any pressure on his shoulders.
Carl, Oliver Holt from the Mail on Sunday was at the game. Arsenal survived in the end, escaped with a 2-1 win, and are still on course for the quadruple. We are into March now, and the whispers over a quadruple. What's the next level up? Is it a murmur? They're turning into murmurs of a quadruple now.
Sure.
They couldn't, could they?
No, they won't.
OK, thanks.
I think it is deeply unwise to talk about quadruples until we know who's won the League Cup. I'm also of the belief that you can't win a quadruple because the nature of English football is too attritional. There are too many games, too many attritional games, and players essentially just burn out come crunch time. Liverpool came close, and then the following season everyone got injured.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely spot on. The closest Liverpool got was in 2022. They won both the domestic cups.
Yes.
Got to the final game of the Premier League season. City won.
And then Courtois had a fantastic game in the Champions League final.
But you're right about the physical capabilities of them, because Thiago Alcantara, who'd been such an important player,
gets injured just before the League Cup final.
No, he was injured in the he was injured just in the build up to. He basically had to have painkilling injections to play in the Champions League final, in the FA Cup final. It's incredible, the ferocity of of going for a league, the games that Arsenal play. I mean, I know everybody are looking at the running that Arsenal have got and think that it's straightforward-ish. It never ever turns out that way.
This is not to disrespect Arsenal, in that I think Arsenal are a fantastic team and they are going to finish the season with at least one of the big trophies. But to win 4, you need to maintain a level of quality and play football at a level of intensity that I think is just outside English teams, particularly at a time where other teams across Europe are able to change their schedules. If you compare PSG's March fixture list to Arsenal's March fixture list, it's completely night and day. PSG have managed to get one of their games pushed to a Friday, so they have more time to prepare to play against...
The league have given them that time off especially.
So they have more time to prepare against playing Chelsea. These are the little things that allow a French team or a German team to prepare better for a... I mean, they can't even... Well, Germany can't have a quadruple. France can. No, they can't, because they've combined their two cups. So the quadruple doesn't even exist in certain nations. This is no disrespect to Arsenal. I don't think we should be talking about the Q word because, one, we don't know who's won a League Cup yet, and two, have you seen the English schedule? Unfathomable. If they do, bring me my hat and my shoe and I'll eat them online.
Well, we'll definitely bring you back onto the show just to see that. Jackie, just generally on the FA Cup, a word on Mansfield, because they really did put up a fight. Macclesfield had an extraordinary run in the Cup, beat the holders in Crystal Palace earlier on. Crystal Palace themselves last May, winning the FA Cup, their first trophy in their history. Just overall, when you look at the FA Cup weekend like this and what has happened in previous rounds and what happened last season, is it another example that maybe the much maligned FA Cup and maybe the magic had gone, it's well and truly alive and kicking?
Yeah, I don't think it's gone. I think it's all cyclical, isn't it? Like, you have a couple of obvious results and you're kind of not really enthralled by them and you go, oh, the FA Cup, it's just getting in the way of a good Premier League or whatever. And then you have what happened at Macclesfield to Crystal Palace, for whom it really mattered, by the way. It wasn't like second string and they weren't that fussed. It did matter. And it was just a magnificent day. So I don't think the FA Cup magic has gone anywhere. If we start tweaking it and we start, denigrating the tournament with new regulations, then it could do. But no, I mean, I watched the Wrexham-Chelsea game yesterday and it was very much alive and kicking. It was fabulous. I enjoyed every single minute of it. I was at Mansfield last weekend in the AFC Wimbledon away end and wouldn't have expected Mansfield necessarily to have pulled out of that performance against Arsenal yesterday. But it's the FA Cup that lifts these kind of performances and the pitches and the oldest ground in the world, by the way. I learnt last weekend at Mansfield because it's proudly adorning the stand there. But I think it's very much alive and kicking. And I think it's with the pressure on Premier League managers these days, going to those kind of grounds, the pressure that they feel to not be knocked out is enormous. And Chelsea benefited from a red card in the end and came twice from behind, and good luck to them. But it wasn't straightforward.
We'll come to Chelsea in a moment, but sticking with the theme, Dom, of quadruples and maybe clubs not being able to do it, there is another team who is still in the mix, albeit an outside bet considering where they are in the Premier League just now after the midweek results, is Manchester City. The Mail on Sunday, tune sick of the sight of quad-chasing City. They seem to be, I think Eddie Howe's joked about it, at least they didn't get Manchester City in the Champions League, but the time that they can meet them, I think, is in the final.
Yeah.
They'll probably take that. No Haaland, of course. 10 changes from the draw against Nottingham Forest, but seemingly no problem for Manchester City.
No, the most impressive aspect of it all was the fact that Newcastle had started well. They were in the ascendancy. They got the goal. And then all of a sudden, the cogs clicked. And away they went, Man City, with the incredible quality that they've got. I would have a sneaking suspicion that they might win more trophies than Arsenal.
Oh.
Just in terms of the cups,
So City for the domestic cups, Arsenal win the league.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think he's got the manager's got an edge about him, and I did the first leg of this. I was with Craig Hope for the first leg of the League Cup semi-final up there in January, and he just looks like he's got an edge about him. He just looks like he's got the eye of the tiger in terms of the fact that you can make 10 changes yesterday, not have the best centre forward in the world, and do that at a very, very tough place to go, I think is ominous.
Carl, he says the manager's got an edge about him. It is something that I noticed when I watched that game as well, particularly what was happening on the sidelines. And Martin Hardy, who was at the game at St James's Park from the Sunday Times, he says Guardiola's biggest fight of the evening came in his efforts to remove his winter coat. Such was his fury at a foul given to his side midway through the second half. He even appeared to square up to Lewis Smith, the fourth official, after receiving a yellow card for his rage, with fists clenched and eyes bulging. This is not a Pep Guardiola that seems to have lost his hunger, that some people might have accused him of earlier on in the season, and one that many believed, even though he's got a contract until the summer of 2027, that he might actually call it a day this summer.
Yes, I don't believe Pep Guardiola is going from English football anytime soon. Sam Lee at The Athletic wrote a fantastic piece last week about how Pep Guardiola's changed their early build-up. So you saw Rodri and Nico sort of drop deep and do short goal kicks, and Pep Guardiola explained this was sort of an attempt to break down teams that are now looking to man-mark in defence way more. And Sam's point was amazing about how the method of building up wasn't necessarily successful, but it was Pep Guardiola trying to figure things out. And one thing that's always stuck with me is an anecdote his wife gave, which is you can talk to him about something that has nothing to do with football for about 40 minutes before his eyes glaze over and you go, I've lost him. He's thinking about football again.
40 minutes?
No,
40 minutes.
It's the 32. It's 32 minutes, isn't it? It was in the book that Marty Perrinau did about Bayern Munich. It's the 32 minutes. That's what he's.
And then the eyes glaze over.
That's ages.
That's what his cut-off
Before
is.
No one can talk to me for 32 minutes without me
No one
bringing
can
up
talk to me
football.
for 32 seconds.
Same. I'm astonished it's that long, seriously.
But I just feel as if Pep Guardiola, sometimes he gets into these moods where even if there is an opponent in front of him, he sort of invents a new one, so he has something else to chase.
Yeah.
And when you have that sort of singular drive, that sort of bizarre focus on the tactical minutiae of football and how to not only get your team to be good, but also to figure out the master puzzle of how football should be played, which I think that's how he views football. I think he's going to be here for a very long time, which, as someone who doesn't support Manchester City, makes me do a big weary sigh. Go away, please.
The man's a genius. I remember I did a game when he was Bayern Munich manager. We played Hertha Berlin. I think it was November 2015, just before he came over. And it was one of those rare games that you could just watch and you weren't reporting on live. And that was the first time I'd seen him do that 2-3-2-3 system. And he knew Bayern Munich was so much better. And he was like, how can I entertain myself during this game? And he was working things out for him. He's like, the way he ticks over. That's what just gives me his record of winning. And his ability to work things out in big games just makes me think that through the final weeks of the season, they're the ones that will just have that little bit of an edge.
Do you think they're going to win the Premier League?
What?
Do you think they're going to win the Premier League?
No, I don't think Arsenal win the Premier League, and Arsenal would be deserving Premier League winners. But I would think it would be very. If he's within 4 points before that game at the Etihad, all bets are off.
Okay.
And they've got that game in hand, haven't they?
Yeah. I mean, this probably sounds a bit bizarre to say. I think City are the most likely of the two teams to have an unexpected result, just because of the very nature of how he's still building this team together and it's still quite new. But the talent that they've got and what he's got himself, that X factor, would make me think that they would be. They're very dangerous.
And the addition of Semenyo as well in January, and Gehi as well. But Semenyo's just added that kind of hit the ground running Premier League, just joy and goals and freshness, real freshness, which is a bit awesome for everybody.
What was it you were saying, 32 minutes before the eyes glaze over? Well, I don't think that could have been the case if you were watching Wrexham against Chelsea yesterday. The Observer Sport, they say Hollywood drama. Wrexham give Chelsea a big scare. I want to just quote from the Sunday Times, actually. Jonathan Northcroft was at the racecourse ground. He says, for a moment, for a mad, raucous, was this scripted moment, Wrexham seemed headed for the FA Cup quarter-finals and you were toying with intros like Hollywood bloody hell. But with that certain gravity football normally has, Chelsea's resources and talent pulled the tie back down to earth. I have to say, it hasn't stopped the headline writers from using Hollywood in every single headline, even though Wrexham didn't get through. but they were given an almighty fright, Chelsea, last night, weren't they?
They were, and it was brilliant to watch, just as a complete neutral. It was just fabulous to watch, and we saw a lot of the Wrexham owners, didn't we? During the course of a lot of the Wrexham owners, and if they're in the Premier League, I think there might be a bit of a backlash to that going forwards. But there's a good piece in The Observer today by George Sims that's worth a read, which talks about the two sets of American owners, but the very, very different styles, in the sense that with the Hollywood owners of Wrexham, it's very much about the storytelling. And of course, they've had that documentary, haven't they, with Disney+. Whereas with the Chelsea owners of Todd Boehly and Clear Lake, it's been very much a case run as, a business, like a city firm, if you like, and very much from spreadsheets. And therefore, with the players and the managers, etc., struggling to create that kind of rapport and relationship with the supporters. Because as supporters who pay ticket money to go and watch their team every week, you want to love individual players. You're not thinking of balance sheets. You're thinking of, is this player going to be in my team for the next couple of years that I can really form a bond with? And your kids, and then they become heroes. And then 20 years down the line, you look back as that individual player as being your hero. Whereas at the moment, Chelsea supporters don't necessarily have that attachment, and they don't even want to start liking Liam Rosenior because, how long is he going to be there? Because the model, whereas Wrexham, it's very, very different.
To quote from the piece that Jackie's just alluded to there in The Observer from George Sims, here in the flailing limbs and profound joy of Sam Smith and Callum Doyle's goal was a reminder of what Chelsea are missing under their current ownership. Ultimately, they have a storytelling problem. Lacking anything constant or substantial for fans to grab hold of and love, increasingly alienated even as the club flirts with stabilisation. And it finishes off the piece by saying, Wrexham serve as a reminder that investment and feeling are not mutually exclusive, and that a good story can so often beat reality. So what are we saying here? Can Chelsea learn lessons here from Wrexham?
Chelsea won. This is a fantastic piece from Sims, but I'm like, oh, hang on here. Chelsea won it.
It's 10 men, but
yeah, well, they all count. They all count.
Yeah, and they did win.
And yes, look, Chelsea now under Bluco feel very, very different to how they felt under Roman Abramovich. And when I talk to my Chelsea supporting friends and fans there, they talk about this sort of idea of the Bluco player trading model. And when Enzo Maresca left, there was this conversation about the sort of rift between Enzo Maresca, Bluco, and the many different sporting directors. And whatever Chelsea are doing, it feels atypical. It feels different from how other, you can call them traditional super clubs or the new money super clubs work. And it can be hard to build a connection. So Liam Rosenior has a hard problem, not just in terms of winning matches, but also to build this sort of narrative. So I guess, we now have to make a Chelsea documentary on a streaming service? Is that what we're saying now?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe making a documentary about the four of us soon if we carry on. Dom, I'm going to start with you. The Sunday Times and Martin Samuel's piece is basically saying the greatest champions wanted to play, so why don't Arsenal? He says, play football. That is what is expected of the best. So when Fabian Hürzeler and others, he's far from a lone voice in the game, say that Arsenal do not, it rubs against our expectations of champions. That is where the backlash, the animosity comes from. The lofty ambitions of the makers of the modern Premier League, from Sir Alex Ferguson and Wenger to Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp, have altered our take on how the best should play. We should premise this with the fact that they've scored 101 goals in all competitions so far this season. The majority of them, even though we focus on set pieces, have come from open play. I think 69 at last count. Is the narrative around Arsenal, set piece team, not great to watch, is it a fair one?
Good morning, North London.
Come on.
It is a fair one, yeah. It's a very fair one. The debate that's being caused is absolutely valid. I, like many, watched the game against Chelsea last week, and I found myself walking out at times, out of the living room, because I just didn't like what I was seeing. The antics, the dragging, the grappling, the Declan Rice looking like Johnny Wilkinson when he's like taking it, hands up, setting himself, getting ready to put a corner in. Declan Rice has got a wonderful right foot, I should add. I don't like it. I don't like some of the things that they've done in terms of the tactics. And I'll say I don't like it, and I'll qualify all this, is because I think Arsenal have got it within them to be so much better and so much more expansive. We were talking about it off air before. I remember a game they played against Liverpool 2 years ago. They won 3-1 at the Emirates. They were breathtaking. I thought they were going to be champions that year. Fast, powerful, slick in their interchange. They've got it within them. What they were doing last week has opened up a totally valid debate. And the very fact that it's so widespread, that there's so many different people, it chimes with them, shows this isn't what we expect. Now, I know you're going to qualify this and say Arsenal fans will not care if they win the league, and rightly so. But, to quote Arne Slot, to my football heart, I'm not enjoying seeing it.
But his football heart's not going to enjoy not winning the league, is it?
No.
And if Arsenal do win the league, actually say their fans are not going to care.
Can you do better than being top of the league?
He could do it so much better.
They're top of the league.
He could do it so much better.
But you mentioned it there, Dom, that you thought they were going to run away with it a couple of seasons ago, but they didn't.
No.
And so is that now a little bit of scar tissue that they've taken on now?
There shouldn't be. The managers work with Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola. Hang on a second. Can I finish? Sure. There's a misconception here about David Moyes, by the way.
Okay.
Because Mikel played this stuff that David Moyes played, defensive football, is an absolute nonsense. Mikel was a centre midfielder in that team that had Leighton Baines and Stephen Pienaar marauding down the left. That had great footballers. It's an absolute myth that David Moyes was a defensive coach at Everton. Just not true. Mikel as a player saw the game differently. He was always someone who was pushing boundaries in terms of, can we get better players in? Can we always keep developing that bit further? Can we be more expansive? That's what he wanted to be part of. He's worked with Pep Guardiola, who never, ever, ever alters his plan in terms of playing football, being stylistically. Yes, he might tinker with formations and whatever and do different ways of getting through it, but stylistically, he's attractive. Mikel has been schooled at Barcelona. He knows what good football is. And I wrote a piece last week. We did a debate in the Mail on Tuesday morning, Monday online. Nobody will tell me what I saw from Arsenal last Sunday was good football. Nobody. We can do the next 3 episodes, the next 3 sections of this. Nobody will tell me that was good football.
Well, how did you think Chelsea played?
The same. And listen,
so are they not reacting to the opposition as well?
Are you enjoying the football that you're watching?
I'm not saying. What I'm trying to get to the bottom of here is that there is this narrative around Arsenal just now that they aren't good to watch and they're a set-piece team. But is the same energy given to Arsenal when they do play well compared to now? Because it always seems to be, they played well, but...
That's a different question. That's a completely different question and a different debate. Because if you're a fair fan, if you're a fair observer, if you recognise good football, if you see a team break loose and score and play with panache and whatever, the first thing you'll do will give them credit. I seen Arsenal in Sport in Lisbon last November. Martin Odegaard, he's one of the best footballers in Europe. He'd take your breath away. He's got everything. He's got every little trick in his book. He should be at the centre of that team painting pictures. He's beautiful to watch. I personally don't like some of the antics. That's what I'm talking about. I don't like the pulling. I don't like the grappling. I don't like what Mikel does in terms of the antics on the touchline. Where anybody watch the games, he'll take a step out of his technical area when the team is attacking down Arsenal's right. When the fullback comes over, Mikel's within the peripheral vision of the attacker. It makes it look like you're doubling up. It's gamesmanship. Arsenal's so much better than it.
Jackie.
Why are you smiling at me like
No.
He's enjoying your rant.
This is better than when we were off air. I'm just Jackie, look, the last 3 years they finished second. And some neutral observers will say they played some fantastic football in those last 3 seasons, but they didn't get over the line. But the narrative from that last 3 years is that Arsenal are bottlers. Now, they're trying a different way to try and get over the line, because it's always said, isn't it? Trying to just get that first title over the line is always the hardest one. It's been 22 long years since Arsenal have won this title. Is it just the case now, just get it done, and then maybe next season the shackles might come off? if it is perceived that Arsenal aren't playing good football?
Yeah, I think they're using set pieces as a comfort blanket because they're exceptionally good at it and it's all part of the game, set pieces. But I think people are conflating the two issues. I think they're conflating the style of football with the grappling and etc. In terms of the grappling and set pieces, and other teams are doing it as well, that can be clamped down upon by referees awarding penalties for when the ball is in play. If Declan Rice's arms are still over a player, for example, when he's defending, then clamp down on that. Give a penalty for the handball or for the tackle. So there are laws of the game that referees just need to clamp down upon. And perhaps we can hear from PGMO, who I always tend to defend when I'm on this show because nobody else does, frankly, and the referees, because it is a very difficult game. But I genuinely think there are laws in place to blow the whistle when the ball is in play. If somebody is grabbing a defender, just start giving penalties for that and it will stop. But because penalties are not being awarded, it doesn't. And also, get the ball in play more quickly. So when we heard Fabian Hürzeler complaining about the time wasting, he wasn't complaining about style of play, he was complaining about the time wasting at corners, half an hour of the game was gone to restarting the game, between both teams, by the way. Again, clamp down on that, keep the game flowing. And in terms of the set pieces, Rory Smith's piece was saying that the percentage of set pieces that are scored, 18% of Premier League goals come from corners, 25% to 33% come from set pieces overall. And he's saying that that's not actually much different to previous seasons. So I don't think Arsenal being good at scoring from corners and Declan Rice putting the ball in exactly the place he wants to is an area for criticism at all. But the officials have it within their grasp to be able to cut down on the time wasting and the rest of it. And in answer to your question about will they do it next season, I think they have to get over the line. You've got to do what you've got to do. They're not bottlers if they get over the line with a set piece, are they? And win 3 points at Brighton. They have to do it. If they play beautiful football and then they don't win, they finish second again, then they'll get all the criticism in the world.
Mikel Arteta famously in a press conference put 2 bottles on the table and said, this is a set-piece goal, this is an open play goal. What's the difference? Now, just before you come back...
No, sorry. I was going to...
Carl, I know you wanted to come in there, but will we look back, if Arsenal were to win the title, that, they weren't great to watch? Because Martin Samuel says the biggest myth is that nobody remembers how you did it. He actually says, you remember how Guardiola did it at Barcelona, don't you? And you remember Diego Simeone's champions at Atletico Madrid. Of course you do. Does it matter?
Martin Samuel didn't include Jose Mourinho in his mark of greatest champions, which I think is a very funny, very clever sleight of hand, because Jose Mourinho is one of the more influential managers and one of the greatest champions of Premier League football. And yet, Chelsea, despite the fact they played good attacking football in stages, are not as well regarded as other ones. Look, Arsenal getting it done, right? And I think what we're seeing here is just a fantastic case of it's less fun when the rabbit has the gun. Fabian Hürzeler said, my team will never play football like this. OK, well then don't win games. Continue to not win games. It would be my opinion if I'm Arsenal. At the moment, Arsenal are where they are in the league and where they are in the Champions League because they have a squad that is good and deep and best prepared for how top-level football in Europe and in England is. You've talked about how the fact you want them to be more expansive. How can Arsenal be more expansive where teams more and more have improved their out-of-possession shape to be deeper and more compact? Yes, I'm sure Martin Odegaard would love to have pockets of space and run things, but basically every single game he plays, there is someone, if not 2 people, stood on top of him. I would love it if Saka got on the ball and looked up and he had 1 fullback to deal with. Yeah. Do you know how good Saka is when he has 1 fullback to deal with? He is one of the best players in Europe. Do you know what happens most of the time when Saka gets the ball? 3! Like, Arsenal can play better football, but they're looking at the opponents that are sitting in deeper, playing stronger. The Arsenal team of 22-23 was glorious to watch because teams hadn't taken Arsenal seriously yet. Then the next season, hang on, this Arsenal team's pretty good. Let's stop attacking them as much, right? Arteta's learnt from his mistakes and the failings of what's happened in their 2 second-place finishes. So he's gone, hang on.
3.
And in 3, I should say. So he's gone, hang on, my centre-back's got injured and I have to use Rob Holding. Let me get another centre-back. Then he goes into the second one. He goes, hang on, let me build my squad in a different way. The way Arsenal play now, it's less entertaining than what we saw previously, but they literally cannot play that way because they've been figured out. So what Arteta's gone is, let me figure out something else. Arsenal's way to break down a low block, as Jackie has said, is set-piece goals. if you open up against Arsenal, they will hurt you in ways that other teams cannot, because Arsenal are the best team in England.
And also, they're going for a quadruple, which is a heck of a lot of football matches. And you think of the modern game and the acceleration and the high intensity and the toll it takes on muscles. I was talking to some sports scientists in the game this week about this topic for another show. And it is so intense and physically draining that if they can conserve some energy by going a goal up or 2 goals up or whatever from a set piece, not that they scored that many from them, it's a bit inflated, then of course it's going to help their cause to win more trophies.
Dom, just generally, have you seen as much noise around a football club as we've seen around Arsenal this season? Particularly a team, given where they are. They're 7 points clear, remember?
Yeah.
They 8 out of 8 in the Champions League, into the Carabao Cup final, into the quarterfinals of the FA Cup.
No. I was trying to think about this. Was the noise?
But why do you think that is?
No. So I was just
fair?
So you talk about noise. Was the noise the first year Mourinho came in, and they were all talking about you're only doing it because of the money? It was Abramovich's first couple of years of enormous investment, and all of a sudden this team had been put together, and then it was like, oh, they're only winning because of the money. Well, they weren't winning because of the money, because they had Frank Lampard, John Terry, one of the best centre forwards we've seen in the Premier League, and Didier Drogba, Duff and Robin coming like flying down.
Chelsea were new. It was new, so they were regarded as the plucky young upstarts. Whereas with Arsenal,
I'm talking about like in terms of news, like narrative.
The narrative was they were plucky young upstarts since the first title for a while, so they were fondly regarded.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is he's talking about noise. There was noise at that time about Chelsea because they were there. This is different because there is so many people debating it. For Brighton's manager to get involved with it, and a young Brighton manager whose team aren't necessarily flying at the moment, that tells you how different it is. It's on talk show, it's on phone-ins. We're spending a full part of it.
But when an opposing manager does that, isn't that their way of trying to gain an advantage before they play?
But that's a dangerous thing to do, though, from his point of view.
So they don't get on,
because
do they?
That's a dangerous thing to do because, you know, if we're going back to the old days, what does Mikel Arteta do when he sees that? Seen what he said about your lads, pins it up in the dressing room. That should give you the opportunity then to go and expand. Either that or you're being mischievous to say, well, I tell you what, if he said this about us, let's make it a properly horrible game for him and give him a taste of his own.
Or maybe Brighton wanted them to be more expansive so that they could get more chances in the game.
Well, I think if they'd have opened up against Arsenal, as Carl said, they'd have absolutely walloped them. But, listen, Arsenal, I'm not denigrating Arsenal. The best squad, the top, they're going to win the league. I can't say that any clearer. If they win the league, they will be deserving winners. What I'm saying is, some of the antics in terms of how they're playing is leaving a bitter taste. And the fact that I'm not the only one who's feeling this way. We wouldn't have been talking about this for 15 minutes if it wasn't a relevant talking point.
But is this not the case with previous champions as well, Carl? Because it's easy to look at previous champions with rose-tinted glasses, isn't it? We look at YouTube when Manchester United were winning trebles, when Pep Guardiola was winning all these titles, when Chelsea were winning these titles, and they look fantastic. Everyone looks fantastic. And you could do the same with Arsenal. They could put all their fantastic goals on YouTube and people would look back and go, God, they were brilliant champions, weren't they?
It's this idea of the subjective feeling affecting your view of objective fact, and that this Arsenal team are good. They're going to be champions. Are they going to be beloved champions in the same way of the United treble winners or the Chelsea team that only conceded 15 goals or indeed the Invincibles? Probably not. I have not enjoyed watching this Arsenal team as much as I've enjoyed the 22-23 team or the 23-24 team. And I'm sure if you talk to an Arsenal fan off camera quietly when the mic's covered, they might admit that too. However, end of the day, scoreboard, they're going to win a winners' trophy. So
they're not going to. They're in a good place.
They are.
It'll be 4 points if City win the game in hand, and then if they beat them, then it's 1 point. And it's not done yet, by the way. So that's why they've got to do what they've got to do, haven't they, to win the league?
The top and bottom of it is, there's an old saying in golf, you don't have pictures on a scorecard.
So,
exactly.
But I come back to that point just briefly about the other stuff around it. I do think if referees come out and say, right, we are absolutely clamping down on this time-wasting stuff, and Mikel Arteta, if he does that step out the technical area as the right back is marauding right in front of it. Yellow card, yellow card, yellow card becomes red when it's 2, and for coaches and Arteta as well is Pep Guardiola is going to be missing games because of his disciplinary record. Clamp down, use the laws of the game that are in place to get the game flowing, and then don't worry about Arsenal where they score from corners. They're great to watch when they score from corners. There's nothing wrong with it.
Do you think, just finally on this, Dom, I'll come to you on this. Do you think there is the same energy towards other clubs that there is to Arsenal when other clubs might score set pieces or other clubs might play well? Do you think it is as much scrutiny on those clubs as there is on Arsenal? I'm talking objectively. Sometimes this season, would you accept that even when Arsenal do play well, there is that?
Yeah.
But
that is fair. That is fair because there are other teams that push the limits in terms of things that time wasting and whatever. Newcastle do it. Let's be honest, there are plenty of other teams in the Premier League who are reliant on not traditional, well,
the dark arts.
The less aesthetically pleasing side of football, shall we call it. Maybe I can understand why Arsenal fans will be feeling this isn't fair. Why aren't they talking about it? But it's a debate at the moment. I think it would be a bit right saying that there has been more of a focus.
And I guess very quickly, the danger for the rest is creating that siege mentality because, as Dom alluded to before, stick something up on the dressing room wall and this is what they think of you guys. What do you think?
I'm sure look, when the Arsenal fans are singing set piece FC, ole, ole, they're enjoying annoying people. Jesse Parker-Humphries did a fantastic piece in The Observer last week about the idea of hate watching and how more and more football fandom is less about I'm enjoying my team win and more about I'm going to enjoy someone else's downfall. So I think we're in a state where people are hate watching Arsenal and therefore now Arsenal fans are like, you can hate watch us all we want, we're still going to win. So yes, loads of misspent anger and emotion. I think everyone needs to go for a walk, feed the ducks, touch some grass, calm down for a little bit.
Right, we haven't got time to go for a walk or feed the ducks just now because we need you straight after another quick break here on Sunday